Man, it's good to be here with you guys today. We are starting a new series. Over the next few weeks, we're going to be looking at all kinds of relationships and how they shape our lives. And for some of us, we might feel like they can even define our lives. Today, we're going to start at kind of the cornerstone of all relationships. We're going to be talking about marriage. We're in a really interesting time, just culturally, where really for the first time in modern history, anyway, people are beginning to really question even the institution of marriage itself. Like, should we get married? Like, is that a thing? And people have all different philosophical ideas, and they can kind of walk you down this logical trail and try to convince you that we should just forget about marriage. We should abandon the idea altogether. They say, how can you make a commitment to someone when you don't even know who you're going to be in 10 years? You don't know who they're going to be in 10 years. Why would you make that commitment? Is it really reasonable that with all of our different instincts and urges that we should partner ourselves with only one person till death do us part? Is that really the most rational thing that we should do? And we're in the age where we're seeing actually some of the percentages of things like divorce drop off, but it's not because less people statistically are getting divorced, it's just less people are getting married. People have begun to abandon the idea of marriage altogether, and I get it, they have their reasoning, they have their philosophy behind it, but if we're really honest, if we really get down to the core of this thought process that is threatening to leave the institution of marriage behind altogether, it really comes down to the fact that if we take a quick look at the world around us, marriage just doesn't really seem to be working. We see statistically that people in their first marriage, almost 50% now, end in divorce. And it gets worse from there. In a second marriage, your chances of divorce are in the 60%. By your third marriage, there's a 73% chance that your marriage isn't going to make it. And some people are like, I've got the hack. I know how we're going to beat it. We're going to hedge our bets. Well, let's move in together first, right? And then it'll be like a trial run, and then we'll see. And if it works, then we'll get married. Statistics prove it wrong. People who live together before marriage, 40% more likely to get divorced. You look up every statistic, and it's very disheartening. People who their parents were divorced and their spouse's parents were divorced, 200% more likely to get divorced than the average. And we hate this. No one wants to be a statistic. We don't want to be a number on the page. But for some of us, the reality is at home. For some of us, we have been through the heartbreak of a divorce, trying to pick up the pieces, put your life back together, the confusion it causes, the hurt that it causes, not just you, but the people connected to your marriage, the children that are involved. Some of us are in a marriage right now where we feel like we're doing everything we can to hold it together. But if we're honest, we don't know if there's much hope. It's just constantly taxing. The emotional output is overwhelming. And so people look at this and they say, it's just not working. Is it really worth it? If the statistics are so much against us, and it seems like they're failing left and right, and really marriage is doing more harm than good, then why not leave it behind altogether? What I think we're going to see today is that part of the problem with marriage and the state of marriage today is we don't actually understand what marriage is in the first place. We don't understand why God created it, why it was instituted, why this lifelong covenant commitment even exists. And the good news for us at Meta Church, and those of you who have stuck around for a little while, is we have a great framework for understanding why marriage actually matters. Meta Church is founded on the belief that every single person was uniquely created by God and that you have a purpose for being here on earth. It does matter that you're alive and you find your significance and you live out that purpose as a part of the movement of Jesus, taking all that you are and all that you have and moving with what Jesus is doing right here during however many years he gives you on planet Earth. That's our life. That's our purpose. That's the target. We're living with the end in mind, with a pilgrim's perspective. We know that this world is not our final destination, that there is an eternity with God, and everything that we do today matters tomorrow. We understand that. And in that context, we have the proper understanding for marriage to make sense. You see, so often we think about marriage in terms of what we get out of it. How does it improve my life? How does it make me happy? How does it push me closer to my goals and my own value system and my own understanding of what it means to live a significant life? But God created marriage. as a relationship that is unique among all other relationships, that is more intimate, that is closer, that is more powerful. And there is nothing like marriage when done right that can push you right up as close as you can possibly get to your God-given purpose. There's nothing like marriage where two people can come together and together help each other get closer and closer to God. And as you grow closer to God, you grow closer to each other. You end up living the life you were created to live. And that's a great sentiment, but the statistics say it's just not working. And so what I want us to do today, before we walk into some steps that we need to take if we want to have a marriage that moves, a marriage that matters, a marriage that leads us to the life of significance we were created for, we first have to really understand the problem. I want to say a couple things about today's message. I know not everyone takes notes. Some of you are holier than others. Some of you take notes and some of you don't. This is a great one because some of you are dating and you're trying to figure it out. And I'm going to give you some really, really, really good biblical, godly advice about how to go through dating with a clear mind and actually pick a spouse that's going to be good for you and for your future. And you think you're good. Oh, I'm going to remember it. 3 steps, I got it. And you're going to get there. You're not going to be able to remember it because you're not as good as you think you are at remembering things. So just get out your phone and freaking write it down. And then you can look at it and you'll actually remember it. And it'll be a beautiful thing. Take some notes. I'm not here to judge you if you don't, but I'm just telling you it's a good idea. This message also works on 2 levels. Because you're going to notice that it seems like I'm talking only to people who are not married on how they can marry well and ultimately have a marriage that moves. So for the single people, this is to help you with what you're looking for in a spouse. But I know there are a lot of people in here who are married. Maybe you have a great marriage, but we all have room for improvement. Maybe you have a terrible marriage. And as we go through this, you're going to realize you did everything wrong in getting into your marriage. This isn't to look for a way out. This is on what you need to start working at. And there is a way, and this exact same content, I have walked with people who checked every single box of everything that you could possibly do to ruin a marriage. If you can think of it, they were living in the middle of it, and they worked hard at the 3 steps we're gonna outline, and they are thriving in their marriage, and you can too. I promise you that there's hope. First, we have to understand the problem, and the problem is that our culture has sold us a lie, and we've bought it. And the lie is that all you need to determine who you should be with and how to tie the knot is this beautiful thing we call chemistry. You just gotta have chemistry. And it's hard to define because it's really intangible. It's external. It has a lot to do with how someone looks and if they're your type and if you get along well and if they make you laugh. But when people talk about chemistry, it's really hard to pinpoint a definition. Like, it just felt so, it was just amazing. We just connected. It was just popping. It was just, we just had that moment. We were just vibing. We were just synced up. Like, just all these words that don't really mean anything, but you're trying to express what the chemistry was like. And it's even weirder when people don't have chemistry because they don't know how to talk about it, because he was like the perfect guy, treated you like a princess, and it's like, I don't know, he just breathed really weird. There's this breathing thing. Like, you've been single for 20 years and you're gonna give this up over breathing? Get the dude, a breathe right strip. I don't know what to tell you. You're running out of time. Like, I don't know. She's really nice. She's beautiful. She's got this pinky toe that's just really strange. Bro, she is a dime. I know. You haven't seen her in sandals though. This pinky toe is throwing me off. It's just not gonna work. It's all external. It's chemistry. We don't know how to really put our finger on it or define it. And so here's what I thought. I'm gonna look up the real definition of the science of chemistry. This is a real definition. Chemistry is the branch of science that investigates a substance's properties and the ways in which they interact, combine, and change with another substance to form something new. And so let's put it into the social romantic world, and we just have to change one word. It's the investigation of a person's properties and the way in which that person interacts, combines, and changes with another person to form something new, a new relationship. You see, we've bought the lie that it's just all about chemistry. If the chemistry's not there, it's just a no-go. And if the chemistry is there, you know what? Order the rings, book the venue. It's all good. And it's everywhere. Every movie that you watch, it teaches you. It ingrains it. It brainwashes you. Every magazine that you read, Every song that you hear, it's teaching you about chemistry. And we don't even know what they mean. Like the great poet, Sir Mix-a-Lot. We don't really know what he means, but he says you gotta have LA face, Oakland booty. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what that means, but that's what you're going for. And I know that's chemistry. And it's just not enough. Marrying for chemistry is not working. We just went through the statistics. It is not working. There has to be something more. What we're going to do is we're going to look at a very old story from the Jewish scripture, the Old Testament of our Bible, Genesis chapter 24. This is the first book of the Bible. And we're going to be looking at a story that involves Abraham. If you've been with us, we've talked a lot about Abraham. If not, let me catch you up. Abraham was called out by God, and God said, I'm going to make you into a great nation, and through that nation, I will bring redemption and salvation to the entire world. Abraham's descendants would be God's chosen people for a specific time and a specific purpose. Ultimately, through that genealogy, Jesus Christ would be born to bring salvation to all people. There could not be a higher purpose. That this is so grand and so great. And in Genesis 24, Abraham's gotten kind of old, and his son Isaac is ready to get married. He's got to get married because Isaac now, instead of Abraham, will carry the promise of God. It will be through Isaac, many generations later, that one day Jesus will come. Now back at this place and at this time, fathers would choose their sons' brides for them. That's just how it rolled back then. And there was a lot riding on this decision. To say that Isaac's wife mattered is a complete understatement. It was huge. It was everything. It was the path to the promise to fulfill the purpose of redemption for the entire world. And so Abraham took it very seriously. In Genesis 24, let's read, Abraham was old, getting on in years, and the Lord had blessed him in everything. And Abraham said to his servant, the elder of his household, who managed everything he owned, place your hand under my thigh. Now, I know we tell you guys to do everything you read in the Bible. Do not do this. This is how you get HR called on you. No, Bob, it's serious. Okay, we're coming into this. Grab my thigh. Don't do that. Abraham's very serious. Put your hand under my thigh, and I will have you swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and the God of earth, that you will not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I live. Abraham is dead serious about this. Abraham's too old to go out and to find a wife. And so he's going to send his servant, the guy that he trusts the most, the guy that oversees everything, the guy that has known Isaac from the time of his birth all the way through his life. He knows Isaac backwards and forwards. He's going to send the servant to find the wife. And he goes, but bro, you have to swear on everything that you love. You will not pick a Canaanite for my son. You guys know we do everything we can to keep it all the way 100 every time we're on stage. So let me just tell you this. This verse and verses like these have been taken out of context and used abusively by people in positions of religious power to try and convince people that interracial marriage is outlawed by God. And let me just tell you that any pastor who stands up and leverages this for his own racist ideas, and this is why the whites should marry the whites. No. That is not what this is saying. This isn't about race. This is about purpose. And what Abraham knows is that God has given him an incredible purpose, and that the Canaanite purpose does not line up with it. They don't worship the same God. They worship idols. They sacrifice their children to these idols. They have no moral compass and no moral code. And they know that if Isaac takes a Canaanite wife, it will derail him from his destiny. We have to have more than chemistry. The first thing that we need is a common life purpose. Common life purpose. Years ago, Pastor John Whitney and I did a series over these very three steps to a marriage that moves, that mattered so greatly to people, that helped so many people out. The first thing that you have to have is a common life purpose. And let me tell you why. Because chemistry minus a common purpose always equals complication. Always equals complication. Chemistry minus a common purpose always equals complication. There are three areas that comprise everything we know and see and experience. God, people, and stuff. God, people, and stuff. And the first common purpose that you have to have with someone that you're going to go into a lifelong covenant commitment with is you have to have the same beliefs around God. And this is so difficult. And maybe you're here right now and you are in a marriage where you believe and your spouse does not. And I'm not saying that it cannot work. It has worked before. People have made it through. They've raised kids. They haven't divorced. But I am telling you, it will be complicated. At the very core of what we believe is that we have an eternity waiting for us with God, that we're not citizens of this earth. We're citizens of heaven, that everything we do is to walk as a part of the movement of Jesus. And if you believe in Jesus and they don't, you're on two different paths. And so maybe you make it work, maybe you agree, maybe they're an atheist, maybe they're from a different faith system. When you have kids, it's complicated. If you both have differing faith systems and both of you believe that your child's eternity hinges on them following your beliefs, it's complicated. What you believe about God influences what you believe about everything else. What you believe about people. Are people there to be used, to be ignored? Are they there, like Jesus said, to be served? Common life purpose. What are you going to do with your stuff? Are your resources, everything that God has given you and blessed you with, are those to be leveraged for God's kingdom? Or are they to be leveraged for your own status? Are you trying to stack up as much material goods as you can in this life? Or are you living with the end in mind, knowing that all of it will burn someday anyway? You can have all the chemistry, but without a common purpose, it will be complicated. There was a really interesting study, actually, that was done about the workplace, and it was measuring employee satisfaction as well as employee retention. In other words, how many people were happy in their jobs and how many people stayed in their jobs. And what they did is they studied passion and purpose across all different fields, thousands of people, and it was a biased research project. The researchers really believed, walking into it, their hypothesis was that people who were passionate about what they were doing would be happier and they would stay longer in their job. And what they found was the complete opposite. Exponentially more than passion, it was purpose that led people to enjoy their work and to stay in their chosen career. You see, chemistry is about passion, and passion is about what's happening right here and right now. Oh man, I'm not gonna take my eyes off of you. I'm on the phone, you hang up. No, you hang up. No, let's just leave it open and we'll just listen to each other breathe. Listen, there wasn't always unlimited minutes, people, all right? Hang up the phone. You're embarrassing yourself. That's just passion. And passion cannot sustain you through a marriage. Passion comes and passion goes, and you love them right now, but 3 months into marriage, when they're doing that thing, when they brush their teeth, you're like, if I have to hear it one more time, I swear I'm gonna strangle them. The passion's gone. Purpose makes you look beyond right here and now. Purpose is long-term. When you start thinking about common purpose, you're thinking about what you and that person will be doing 30, 50, 70 years from now. It's something you can build a life on. It takes more than chemistry. It takes common purpose. It takes more than that. There's another step. Let's keep going. In verse 10, the servant took 10 of Abraham's camels with all kinds of his master's goods in hands, and he went to Aram Naharaim, to Nahor's town. And at evening, the time when women came out to draw water, he made the camels kneel beside the well outside of town. Lord, God of my master Abraham, the servant prayed, make this happen for me today and show kindness to my master Abraham. I'm standing here at the spring where the daughters of the men of the town are coming out to draw water. So let the girl to whom I say, please lower your water jug so that I may drink. And who responds, drink, and I'll water your camels also. Let her be the one that you have appointed for Isaac. And by this, I will know that you've shown kindness to my master. Let's pause and just talk about this very creepy scene that we've just read about, where a bunch of dudes that Abraham sent with all their camels show up at the well. They park the camels, they pull out some lawn chairs, and they just wait for all the thirsty women to come out to the well. And they're checking them out. They're gonna find Isaac a wife. There's a lot riding on this. The servant has a lot on the line. He is finding the wife for the carrier of the promise of redemption of the world. He's gone to great lengths. He grabbed a dude's thigh. He didn't love that. This is serious. And so he goes, God, I need some help. Whichever one I ask for water. And they just on their own say, you know what? I'll give you water and I'll water your camels. Please, God, let that be the one. Verse 15, before he had even finished speaking, there was Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel, son of Milcah, the wife of Abraham's brother Nahor, coming with a jug on her shoulder. Now the girl was very beautiful, a virgin, no man had been intimate with her. She went down to the spring, filled her jug up, and came up. And the servant ran to her and said, please let me have a little water from your jug. And she replied, drink, my lord. She quickly lowered her jug to her hand and gave him a drink. And when she had finished giving him a drink, she said, you know what? Let me also draw some waters for your camels until they have had enough to drink. Very sweet, and we don't even understand what this means. Can I tell you something about camels? Camels can drink 40 gallons of water. There were 10 camels. Buckle up, we're gonna do some math. That's 400 gallons of water. Rebekah was dropping probably a 5-gallon bucket down into a well. When it was full, it would weigh about 40 pounds. 5 gallons at a time, 400 gallons for 10 camels. She pulled 80 buckets of 40-pound water out of the well. She didn't turn on a spout. She did a freaking CrossFit workout. She had a common purpose. She was an Israelite. She served the same God. Had the same ideas about people and stuff. She knew she was chosen for a specific purpose. But the second thing we have to see is compatibility. The servant was testing compatibility. That feels very pragmatic. Maybe it doesn't feel spiritual enough for a sermon. Compatibility, that's like eHarmony talk, See how we line up on 19 areas of compatibility. This is so critical. And it is often the most overlooked aspect of choosing who we are going to spend the rest of our lives with. There was a lot that the servant could tell about Rebekah. He could tell that she was respectful, industrious, hardworking. She was strong. She had a servant's heart. She was generous, hospitable. Not to mention, it's not like chemistry was lacking. She was beautiful. It made that very clear. There was chemistry there, but there was more. There was compatibility. The servant, he knew Isaac. He'd known him since he was a baby. He watched him grow up. He knew what he needed in a wife. You see, we have to have a common purpose, right? And where there's chemistry but no common purpose, it gets very complicated. But with compatibility, if you have chemistry and no compatibility, you have conflict. Every area that you are not compatible with the person that you are considering as your spouse or with the person you're married to, there will be conflict. You can have the chemistry, you can have the passion, you can even have the purpose. But if you have chemistry and no compatibility, there will be conflict, and you got to get ready. And here's the deal. You're not going to find someone you're completely 100% compatible with. That person does not exist. And conflict is not bad because healthy conflict is how we grow. It's how we mature. It's how we become the people that God created us to be. However, when we're in love, when we find that person we can't stop thinking about, the last thing we want to do is have conflict. And so we find the areas where we're incompatible, but because we're in love, we sweep them under the rug. We overlook them. And part of it is that it takes time to find the areas of incompatibility. There's another statistic that says people who date at least 2 years are over 50% more likely to stay married. They've taken the time to see if they're really compatible or not. Katie and I, we were together dating for over 2 years because she wouldn't marry me in 3 weeks. On our third date, I was like Googling flights to Vegas. Like, I'm never gonna find another girl like this. I better lock it up while I got it. She knew better. We waited. We took time. But time doesn't matter if you're not willing to have the hard conversations. And let me promise you, you can sweep it under and sweep it under. You can put it all under the rug until the rug is nice and lumpy. You can overlook it all. You may avoid conflict today, but the conflict will come. I promise you it will. You may be able to overlook it while you're dating or engaged. You may be able to make it through your wedding day, maybe the honeymoon period. But there are so many people who I have sat across from in a counseling session who had 5 years of a beautiful marriage, sweeping it under and sweeping it under. And finally something broke One came out, it surfaced. And when one comes out, more are following. And when it rains, it pours. And all of a sudden, what they thought was a beautiful, blissful 5 years of marriage, they realized was a mirage because they have been ignoring and denying all the areas of incompatibility which have led to massive conflict. And now, they don't know if it's going to work. And here's all we're saying. Have the conflict first. If you are not yet married, have the conflict on this side of the marriage before you make a lifelong covenant commitment. If you are married, I'm not going to lie to you, this is more complicated, but the day to quit sweeping things under the rug is today. It's time to book a counseling appointment, to get a book about how to have healthy conflict, to get a babysitter and go to dinner, to create a safe space and say, here we go. Let's start putting some stuff on the table. Let's make an investment of a hard conversation today so that we don't sabotage our future later. It's so difficult. And here's the last thing that I'm going to say about compatibility. Take your time, see the areas, have the conversations. Here's the last thing I'm going to say. It's going to feel so old school. It's going to feel so irrelevant. Nobody talks about it anymore. You feel out of touch. It's just the way the world is. This is why you wait to have sex. Because of compatibility. Now let me make it clear. You wait because God said. There's a spiritual reason. And you better believe the God who created our bodies and designed them for sex knows how it should work. And he says it only works well inside of marriage. There's a spiritual reason. Here's the practical reason. The moment that you become sexually active in a relationship, it is such a deep connection to your heart and your soul and your mind that there is nothing more motivating to sweep things under the rug. You start realizing you're really incompatible. You see the way that they treat waiters, and that's not how you believe in treating people. You value family. You would love for your mom to live next door. They would like to only see her on holidays. You think about money one way, they spend it like it's on fire. You want 10 kids, they want none. There's incompatibility. But now you're in, and you'll do almost anything to not give up that sexual relationship. It can get worse. Real incompatible. You're pretty sure they're still talking to their ex. You avoid the conversation. You see a habit that you might think is an actual addiction that could have real consequences in their life and your life, and you're attaching yourself to them. But you've already gone so far. You've made a connection that's very difficult to break. You wait because it gives you the clarity of mind and heart and soul to discern whether you're really, truly compatible with someone before you make a commitment meant for a lifetime. Chemistry's not enough. We need a common life purpose. We need compatibility. And the last thing that we're going to look at is confirmation. Confirmation. Confirmation is when someone outside of your relationship who is wise and spiritual and who loves you enough to tell you the absolute truth weighs in on your relationship. Let's read the end of the servant story, searching for Isaac's wife. So the men came to the house, and the camels were unloaded. Straw and feed were given to the camels, and water was brought to wash his feet and the feet of the men with the servant. And a meal was set before him. But the servant said, I will not eat until I've said what I have to say. Over the next 15 verses in scripture, he goes all the way back through the entire story. Listen, I work for this guy. His name's Abraham. He really needs the perfect wife for his son. He made me grab his thigh. It's neither here nor there. I came all the way here. We went to the well. We creeped on some chicks. We found Rebecca. She fed my camels. Now we're here, and I'm telling you, this is the woman for Isaac. And he concludes. He says, if you're going to show kindness and faithfulness to my master, tell me, and if not, then let me go. Listen, you've got the perfect woman. Fully together on their life purpose, fully compatible, and the servant is willing to walk away if he does not get the confirmation of the people who love Rebecca, who want what's best for her. We don't like this. We don't like people telling us what to do, especially in our relationships. As a matter of fact, the more people tell us that we shouldn't be with someone, we're like, oh, I'm going to date them even harder. You just keep telling me. You know what? I'm going to show you. I'll elope. Remember when you didn't let me go to the middle school dance, Mom? Here I go, off to Vegas, ruin my life to teach you a lesson. I call it the Romeo and Juliet syndrome. Oh, the more you don't want us to be together, we will show you. We'll conquer the world. Yeah, we're not really that compatible. Yeah, we think differently. You believe in God, I don't. You know what? We'll figure it out in the end. You won't. It will be horrible. You'll ruin your life. There is a reason that we go to wise people, because when we're in love, it's hard to think straight. Oh my gosh, she sent me an emoji. She sent me an emoji. Who cares, bro? That's worse than typing something. We just can't think straight. We go to people who are wise and spiritual and love us. And it protects us, because we may think we're compatible, but they can see something we can't. They're not necessarily going to tell you no, although if they do, you might want to listen. A lot of times what they'll tell you is, not yet. Not ready yet. And when you get the yes, you can move forward with confidence. Can I tell you how this worked in my marriage? I have a few minutes left. The first time I saw Katie, she didn't see me. Stalker. She showed up at the church I worked at, and there was one-way chemistry, right? Like, she couldn't have chemistry with me yet because she hadn't seen me yet. But I had seen her, and the day before I saw her, I was like, never getting married, don't like kids, too much, I'm a musician, I'm just gonna do this forever and live in a van and whatever. And I saw her, and literally everything changed so much. The passion in I was like, I had my suit picked out for the wedding. I knew what song I was gonna sing, spoiler alert, Boys to Men. And it was great. And then we did meet, and by God's blessing alone, there was some chemistry returned to me, and we started hanging out. And it was crazy because we started talking about what we felt like our purpose in life was. And when we believe the same things about God, we felt the same way about stuff, the same way about people. We both were passionate about adopting and the orphan crisis. We were in lockstep. It was amazing, and we spent more time together, and in my mind, we were 100% compatible. You couldn't have talked me out of it, and it was just so perfect, and we were hanging out, and it was so much fun, and man, we were in love, and by we, I mean I, and then she caught up eventually, and I just knew, like, when we go to people, they're gonna give us the biggest thumbs up you can imagine. Go for it. Y'all should get married yesterday. It's amazing. And you can't imagine how shocked I was when everyone who knew me, everyone who really loved me, didn't give me confirmation. They knew me well enough to know I had some maturing to do before I could think about marriage. They knew me well enough where they knew I thought we were completely compatible, but they knew we weren't. Mostly compatible. They knew there were some serious areas to work on. People who really knew me knew I had virtually no money to support a family. Different ideas about our futures. It wasn't always a no, but it was definitely a not yet. And that turned what I thought was going to be a very short dating life, a quick engagement, and a beautiful wedding into 2 very challenging years where I was forced to come face to face with some things inside of me that I had been avoiding looking at my entire life. And I kept going to people who are wise and who knew me and who loved me. And eventually they said, it's time. You know, when we stood at the altar and we exchanged our vows, we did it not only with chemistry, not only with a common purpose, not only with compatibility, but surrounded by people who know us, who love us, who are spiritual and wise, who are there to affirm and protect us. Listen, it's an easy thing to get married these days. It's a pretty easy thing to get divorced. And marriage has become a commodity to such an extent that people are thinking about getting rid of it altogether. Can I tell you that marriage matters? That marriage is worth working hard on. Whether you're planning to get married and you need to know what to look for, or whether you are married right now, no matter the status, no matter how great or miserable it is, it's worth working on. It is a relationship that God has given to us. It is a gift to push us closer to the people we were created to be, to push us closer to God. And the closer you get to God, the closer you'll get to each other. We work hard on our jobs. We'll put in an 80-hour week to get a promotion that doesn't even really matter in the grand scheme of things. Some of us work really hard at our parenting. We go through all the books and listen to all the podcasts. We want to be better parents. We work hard on our bodies. We go on all sorts of crazy diets and spend all kinds of crazy time in the gym just to fit into a different size bathing suit. It's time to work hard on our marriage. It's time to work hard on the greatest gift God has given us in our relationships. It's time to reject the lie that the passion of chemistry can sustain you through. It's time to work towards a common purpose, to have the conflict, healthy conflict, over your areas of incompatibility, to seek confirmation. It's time for the world to see a group of people who have marriages that move. Would you guys pray with me? God, we love you. We thank you for loving us. We thank you for the blessing of all kinds of relationships. Today we're focusing on marriage. God, I pray that we would not be victim to the statistics. God, that we would be statistic breakers. God, that we would break the chains of deceit that have so clouded our vision of what relationship and romance and marriage actually is. That we would find people, God, for the people who are in marriages right now, that we would become the people who push ourselves and our spouse closer and closer and closer to you. We love you. We pray all of this in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks for joining us today at Meta Church Online. We would love to know how God is using this ministry to affect your life. If you have a story about how God has spoken to you through this online platform, we would love to hear about it. You can send an email to info@metachurch.tv. We would also love for you to partner with us financially to help us continue to expand what God is doing through Meta Church. You can do that very easily at metachurch.tv by clicking on the Give button. You can give a one-time donation, or you can set up to give recurringly and to continually support what God is doing. Every time you give, you invest in eternity. We hope to see you here next week.